Hello and welcome to Eureka, coming to you from Science Brainwaves and PH7. In the studio today we have me, Chris.
Me, Charlie.
Me, Weilin.
And this week's episode is going to be all about colour. So we're going to be talking about the physics of colour, the biology of colour, so how it appears in nature, and also its role in adaptation. Of course, we have the news and the quiz. Let's get going.
So yeah, first up in the news, a gene found commonly in the Amish community seems to make them live 10 years longer.
That's nice.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys must think I'm addicted to talking about the Amish community. I think it's like the second time I've talked about them on this show. Anyway, so a gene variant seemed to be enough to make these people live 10 years longer. The gene they found was called SERPINE1, and it's thought to code for a protein that promotes aging. So it seems that this gene became faulty 6 generations ago in an Amish group, and then it got picked up, and then it seems that if you just carry one copy of the variant, it can mean that you produce half as much as this protein, and it seems that it contributes to longevity, basically.
That's very cool.
So they have less of like an aging protein, so they age slower.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder whether... the hard thing, I guess, must be for the scientists is distinguishing whether it's this extra longevity in lifespan comes from the protein itself or lifestyle choices, specifically in the Amish community.
Yeah, I guess because it's very unique.
Yeah, I think it would be quite hard to like. How can you know whether that extra 10 years comes from better diet, for example?
No, yeah, you're right, probably.
Or the gene itself. Difficult, but I'm sure the science allowed them to tease that apart.
I think that's something they should probably consider a lot, like some of the environmental factors. But
yeah,
I guess from what they just saw was it seemed like a correlation in the gene that seemed to allow these, like the Amish community to live longer. But so the study was carried out by the Northwestern University in Chicago and was carried out on 170 members of the Amish group. And they analysed their DNA and signs for aging. And so they found that the number of people carrying the gene lived on average 10 years longer, dying at the median age of 85.
Very nice.
85.
Yeah. And it seems that they're also less susceptible to getting diabetes. So I guess that could be another factor.
Yeah. But again, could be to do with better diet, because so much of the rise in diabetes that we're seeing in modern societies now is to do with bad diet, too much sugar.
Yeah, that's very true. Tricky.
Very tricky.
But I feel like if they've come up with the study, they've probably investigated those.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they have. I'm just wondering how they did.
How? We'll have to read the paper.
I don't have time for that.
Too much to do.
Yeah.
Right, but moving on. So an AI scarecrow is being developed to scare elephants.
Oh, why?
So in loads of countries they have so when they grow crops, these elephants seem to come and rampage and eat a lot of their crops and damage a lot of the crops.
Okay.
So and to prevent them from killing all the elephants, the researchers have developed a way to scare them, basically. So these scarecrows are they've got AI in them, and so they can detect and identify an incoming elephant, and then they create these sounds and light signals to kind of scare them away, and so it kind of just stops them from
Elephant scarecrows.
It's funny, isn't
Scare elephants
because
rather than scarecrow.
I think people can't imagine elephants ever being seen as a pest. Do you know what I mean?
Because like living in dreary little England.
Yeah, the idea of trying to get rid of elephants coming too near you seems such a shame.
But you can imagine how scary it would be to try to scare off an elephant.
Yeah. I don't think I would try.
It's a bit like in Canada, the same is considered of raccoons, where they just hate them and try and get rid of them all the time. And yet, I think for people living in England, having raccoons in your back garden would be very adorable and sweet, and you would try and encourage it.
What's our equivalent of raccoon?
Pigeons.
Yeah, pigeons.
That's not quite as cute, is it?
No.
But so they tested these AI scarecrows in Gabon, which is in Central Africa, and they proved to be successful. and the elephants seem to quickly run away and turn around when these scarecrows were activated.
That's so cute.
And so they want to move this to actually target other pests. So watch out, raccoons in Canada.
And pigeons, in England. Yeah.
And another piece of news is that light pollution is expected to double by 2050. So researchers from Berlin have linked the increase of artificial lighting in industrializing countries like Asia, Africa, and South Africa to the increase in light pollution. They found that the area of the planet that is lit up has basically just increased by a staggering amount. And this would basically really affect nocturnal animals and the kind of day and light cycle in humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you don't really think about that, do you? Like pollution, you think of CO2 emissions, but you don't think of light pollution necessarily.
No, it's one that's put on the back bench. Really, it's a bit like noise pollution. It's one that annoys people, but doesn't quite have the same weighting as things like air pollution. The other shame is just the fact that we can't see any stars, really.
Yeah, because of all the pollution.
Yeah, and so few of the world. So there's so few places left in the world now where you can really see the Milky Way. I think that's another shame.
Yeah.
Birds that I think I read a while ago. Birds that live in trees on motorways sing at night because of the streetlights. So they think it's daytime, isn't it?
It's a bit bittersweet.
Yeah, and there's also, you remember? Did you watch was it Planet Earth last year?
Yeah.
Where those turtles
several times.
They went towards the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because the light from the city was confusing them.
They're meant to go towards the light of the moon, weren't they? The full moon.
Yeah, but they get confused by the city and all run over by the car. That was the saddest bit in it, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ever so often put in a bit of a devastating scene, don't they?
But apparently every turtle they saw that was going the wrong way, they'd pick up and turn it the other way
Yeah,
around.
all of the ones they could save, they did.
It's a bit like in the current series of Blue Planet, every bit of plastic that they film.
Yeah.
The divers, pick
That
up.
was a good episode.
That was a good
such a
episode,
good
yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
We could have a whole episode of Eureka just talking about Blue Planet.
Please can we? So the major culprit to this increase in light pollution is basically the invention of LED lighting, which is really energy efficient and very cheap. So they just think that it's just being installed everywhere, and sometimes it doesn't really need to be used, and just a boom in light pollution. And finally, so this news is on the alcohol and the effects on people's mood. So a recent survey of 30,000 drinkers across 21 countries has reported that 30% of spirit drinkers felt that their drinks made them more aggressive, compared to 2.5% of red wine drinkers. So this is part of the long-going research into the effects of alcohol and mood, and it's quite historical, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense, really. Like, I've never really heard of, someone drinking a glass of, well, maybe not one glass, but a glass of red wine and feeling like it's not the kind of, laddie drink that you associate with, aggressive people on a night out, do you?
It's a bit like
red wine.
gin and tonic, isn't it? I don't think anyone gets rowdy after a gin and tonic.
Wow. Although there's something about gin coming up, I think.
Oh.
So I think historically it's been, gin has been associated with making you feel a bit more depressed and a bit
really? Yeah.
So I think...
Not aggression, but depression.
There's quite a lot of paintings, I think, that seem to... People that used to be alcoholics would be, the gin drinkers, and then they'd be... be associated with depression. But I think the complicated thing of studying this is because you're drinking, and there's also the environment you drink in and the setting. So you could be...
very true.
You're not at a dinner. You're not really drinking a vodka Coke.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
When you're being sociable.
Yeah.
But then you're sociable on a night out.
True.
Technically.
There's also, of course, the idea: is it the alcohol that makes you aggressive, or is it being aggressive that makes you want to drink alcohol?
Yeah, that's true. Could be the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it could be both.
Yeah. Feasibly. Yeah.
Very interesting.
And so the researchers also found that drinks like beer and wine can make you feel a bit more chilled and relaxed. And so this survey kind of just provides insight into what emotions influence drink choice between different groups, and they can kind of use this information to understand alcohol consumption in different populations.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Think about that on your next night out.
Yeah. Is that it with the news?
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
I don't think so.
No, neither.
That's all we've got to say.
All right. Well, we'll go on to the next section then, which I think is going to be on the physics of colour.
This week we're looking at the physics of colour. And here I've got that, actually, controversially, that colour doesn't not really exist.
What a bombshell to start the show.
I hate it. It's not true.
So we think, or there is kind of speculation that colour really is what we interpret and perceive as biological systems, and objects do not actually own a colour themselves.
Yep.
And rather they like reflect the light that appears a certain colour. So I think, so here's a written like an analogy comes from imagine a bedroom was painted red and it appears red, but when you turn off the light, all the colour goes. And so that kind of just says that the object doesn't really intrinsically have the colour.
Yeah, I don't like it. Because you turn the light back on and it's still red. It's not like it loses its colour and then gains it.
Well, I think the idea is at night there's no light bouncing off the wall, so they have no colour.
But that's not true. It's just that you can't see it.
No, it is that there's no light bouncing off it. And if there's like less light bouncing off it, it will change colour.
Fine, whatever.
Yeah, I guess it changes depending on what kind of light goes on it. But then what I think seems different is that the fact that it has the intrinsic property of being able to reflect red light, but that doesn't lose. It doesn't lose its materialistic.
No. Yes, it's the ability to reflect colour is intrinsic, but the colour itself isn't.
And I guess what is interesting actually is that you might perceive the colour different to me because maybe a different number of cells in your eyes, or
Yes.
Yeah, people say. Well, I think we'll get onto this a bit later, but yeah, I think people say that no two people see the same colour equally.
Which makes sense into like why there's such a variety in opinions on like fashion and artwork. Because if we all perceive colour slightly differently, what looks beautiful to one person can feasibly not look beautiful to another.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all that.
Yeah.
There we go, we've solved it. That's why they say that.
Yeah.
So to start the kind of start of the basics of colour. So colour is defined by different frequencies of light. You kind of need to imagine light as a wave to kind of understand how it works. So there are different frequencies relate to how narrow or wide each wave is. So wavelengths of which are narrow are of high frequency and correspond to blue colours, whereas like the wavelengths which are very wide area of low frequencies correspond to reds.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep.
I think maybe we should all disclaim that none of us are physicists. So if any physicists are listening in at home and realise that we're making a mistake, please do get in contact. Tweet us.
Forge and say you're wrong.
Yes.
Because we'll happily admit that.
But I seem to remember learning that.
That was definitely what I learned at school.
Yeah. With the sort of wave and the compression of the wave causes different amounts of colour.
Definitely.
So something we were also probably taught at school was that like white light is actually a mixture of all different wavelengths of light. So this was realised in the famous Newton's prism experiment.
Yep.
He found that light is refracted when it enters the prism, and each colour is refracted by a different amount. So this means that the light that leaves the prism is spread out into different colours, and is a process called dispersion. So before this, it was considered that white light was colourless, and this kind of experiment proved that it was composed of many different ways.
Within white light.
Yeah, it's why
all
like
the colours
if you had like, trying to think, like a chandelier or something, and the light goes through it. That's why you get little rainbows on the wall.
Yeah.
Or Pink Floyd.
Quite an interesting analogy of chandelier.
I'm just thinking like at home, my mum we don't have a chandelier, so that's too far. But we have like some sort of light fixture that has like a little fake crystal thing on it, and when it's really sunny, like the rainbows go on the wall, and my dog goes crazy. that's why I was thinking of that. But the famous Pink Floyd little symbol.
Indeed.
Yeah, indeed. Chris wouldn't know anything about that.
No. It's definitely not a question on the quiz later.
So I found a fact that actually says that Newton actually chose to divide the colours into 7, which I'm sure he probably wasn't actually the first, but he may have been one of the first, that said the colours were, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet because of the ancient Greek belief that 7 is a mystical number. So he kind of decided on 7.
I guess because it's a continuum. The wave is a continuum. The colour is a continuum, and we just put arbitrary definitions on certain colours.
Yeah, words on it.
So there's no reason why there's 7 colours and not 8, not 10.
Or 3.
Or 3, yes.
I think he just wanted to put a number.
He just was like, 7 is a good number.
Why not?
So this concept kind of also explains how rainbows are formed. So that the kind of idea is very similar to Newton's prism. Instead, the water droplets in the sky refract the light, and this forms a rainbow.
Yep. Makes sense.
Have you guys seen the video of the person seeing the double rainbow?
The what?
There's like a video, I can't remember how it goes, it's been so long since it was like viral, I think, but there's a guy that sees like a double rainbow, and he just
freaks out.
And he's like, it's a double rainbow, and he just really
It is quite an exciting experience. It's one of those things that I still kind of enjoy seeing a rainbow.
I'm still like a child when I see a rainbow. Definitely.
This guy definitely was just, he's going
he just
nuts.
like loses his mind. It's like, oh my god.
Of course, they're quite rare because it has to be both rainy and sunny for the light to pass through the rain.
Yeah, in Sheffield though, not that hard. I feel like it's always like rainy, sunny, rainy,
Yes.
sunny.
Yeah, just
I've
slight
definitely
breaks.
seen a lot of rainbows in Sheffield. Not going to say it's like rainbow capital, but
No.
it's close.
So this kind of brings us on to, one of the very popular questions is, why is the sky blue? And so it turns out this is the second most searched question in Google.
Really?
Beginning with
What's the
why
first?
is.
Beginning
Yeah.
with why is fair enough.
What, do you know what the first is?
I can't remember.
Ooh,
I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can we look it up? We'll come back to that.
I'll
Hang
look
on.
it up and
Yeah.
you guys chat about it.
Yeah.
So why is the sky blue? So the sunlight that reaches the Earth's atmosphere is scattered in all directions by all the gases and particles in the air. So blue is scattered more than other colours because it travels as shorter, narrower waves, which is why the sky appears blue.
Yep.
It turns out, however, that violet actually has the shortest wavelength. But why isn't the sky violet? Well, it turns out that our eyes are less sensitive to violet light compared to blue, so we just detect the blue light a bit more.
Yeah.
I have
That's
an answer for
interesting.
you both.
I wonder if some people could see the sky as violet, though.
Potentially.
We might
come on to it in a minute.
Yeah. But that's interesting that the sky is really violet. And it's
Yeah.
just something
Yeah.
that we're not
Just-
detecting.
There's so many just mind-blowing facts.
This is what I
in
think. This is like the
episode.
point that we're trying to make, that the color doesn't
really
exist because really the sky is violet. We just can't detect it.
I feel like we should have had a disclaimer at the start, like everything you know is not real.
Yes.
In answer to your question of number one most Googled why is question, at the moment I think it's due to the timing, but it's why is it called Black Friday, which is kind of disappointing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe it's how.
Yeah, because it was only just Black Friday and people want to know why it's called
Fits
that.
in with our colour theme, though.
It
It does.
Why is it called Black Friday?
I didn't click on it, I just had a look. I don't want to distract from the science.
Yes.
No, I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, we'll have another.
We'll come back to that one as well.
Yeah.
So why is the sky red during a sunset? So at sunrise and sunset, the sun is very low in the sky, which means that the sunlight we see has travelled through a much thicker amount of atmosphere. So blue light is scattered more strongly by this thicker atmosphere, and it tends to be scattered several times and deflected away in other directions before it gets to us. So this means that there's basically more yellow and red light coming to our eyes, which makes all these beautiful red and light.
That's nice, isn't it? They are very nice. What's the best sunset that you've ever seen?
That's a tricky question.
It is, isn't it? I just feel like there are some which are like really, really nice. There was a great one in Sheffield about a month and a half ago.
Sheffield has some good ones.
Yeah, it was all over Instagram, and I walked home and like stopped in the street and took photos. It looked like it was just the way that the clouds were forming at the time, and the way the red was reflecting through them,
Yeah.
and it was just like it looked really hellish.
And that's why it was good.
It was just really like almost like dystopian.
I don't know what my favourite sunset is. I do like a good summer sunset.
Yeah.
But you don't really see it Well, unless it gets quite late.
Yeah, well, before I came back to uni, me and my friends went up to like this big hill that we have near where I live and watched the sunset, which was adorable.
So cute.
And it was really nice. But then it gets dark so quickly. Like you don't think I didn't quite realise like how long you have. Like we'd have like running down this hill in the middle of the countryside to get back to the car in the pitch black. But yeah,
For a good sunset. I have a really. I went for. Actually, this is a sunrise, but
Okay.
I woke up specifically when I was away in Vietnam. Actually, we'd climbed up some mountains, and they basically said, "Oh, you've got to wake up for the sunset."
Yeah.
So sunrise, and I woke up at I can't remember, like 5 a.m. in the morning. I was the only one in the group that actually bothered to wake up, and I woke up, I was like stumbling out into the open, and then I just looked, and there was just like a huge cloud in front of the sun. I was just like, why did I wake up?
oh no,
It's
that's the most disappointing.
reminds me of that video of some train spotters going out to try and catch the Flying Scotsman. I don't know if you've seen it, and they've been like staying out here all day to try and catch a glimpse of the Flying Scotsman, and just as it comes past, just like a normal like Southwest trains, just like comes past the other side of the track.
I think I might have seen this actually.
It's
Bloody
kind-
Southwest trains.
That's brilliant.
It's kind of tragic, but very funny.
That's sad.
You've got to see the funny side of it.
Well, I hope they did.
Anyway, shall we back on track?
Yes, back on track.
Back into so we're going to go deeper into more physics.
Oh, God.
So another interesting thing about color and light is that the idea that light is a wave has sort of kind of given us the best evidence for the Big Bang. So have you guys heard of the Doppler effect?
Yes, that's like sound waves. When like a car goes past you, it goes like meow, and that's the Doppler effect, where the sound trails. Is it that what it is?
Yeah, you're close.
I feel
When
like
I
I'm
ask you this, I'm
butchering
kind
my
of-
explanation of
I'd
it.
rather you guys explain because
Okay.
I'm quite confused by it.
I mean, I did have a look at this bit before coming in. So the Doppler effect, you're kind of right. So you can imagine it as maybe if you're standing on the pavement and a ambulance is coming past you.
Yeah.
And you see that when the ambulance is approaching you, the sounds are high in frequency, and when they go away from you, they're low in frequency. So you get that kind of weird sound effect, which
I nicely demonstrated for everyone.
Yes. So this is caused by wave compression and wave stretching. So because when the ambulance is coming towards you, the distance between your ear and the ambulance itself is getting shorter, the sound waves are coming compressed, and therefore the waves are narrower, and you're hearing higher frequency sounds. And as it goes away from you, the distance between your ear and the ambulance are increasing, the waves are getting wider, and so the sound decreases in frequency.
Okay, and this is the same with light.
Exactly, which leads on to a proof of the Big Bang.
So they applied this concept basically to the Big Bang, and when we look at distant galaxies, it seems like they give off a red glow, and they basically said that because red light is of a low frequency with wide wavelengths. This would occur if the distance between us and the distant galaxies had increased, and traveling light is being stretched.
Yes, and that's evidence for the Big Bang, I guess, because if galaxies far away from us are being
Propelled outwards.
exactly, if you imagine a Big Bang,
they should be getting further away.
everything's getting further and further away from each other. So the light waves are being stretched, and so
They should look red.
But it's something closer to us
So if it
seeming
was
to go
moving
more red. Yeah, as in like
Closer, it should be bluer.
if it's getting
Yeah.
in the time that the light wave has reflected off and coming towards us, if in that time it's the galaxy is getting closer to us, it will look blue.
Okay, if
But
it was
that's
but that's not true. I'm just
Yes.
hypothesizing.
In fact, I think I'm right in saying that there are no parts of the universe which are getting closer together. Everything is getting further apart.
I think we had a go on to mixcloud.com/EureCronForge if you want to listen. But we had a episode about space and all things physicsy, and we did talk about that.
Yeah, so that's why we always see a red shift rather than a blue shift.
Well, there you go.
Anything else on this section of physics?
yes, I'm going to end with a point that is going to blow your mind.
Again,
It's kind of...
it's already such a small fragment.
So you see how in the beginning I was saying how you got to think of light as a wave?
Yeah.
Well, scientists are beginning to think of light as a particle. So they think of the light as like a photon, which is like a little package of light. And the physicist Einstein made this kind of theory popular. He believed that light packages its energy into small quanta based on something called the Planck's constant. Do you know what the Planck's constant is?
Nope.
I did at one point in my life, but it is something to do with like energy is packaged into discrete units. It's not a continuum. Yeah.
But yeah, from this basis, so light now is now described as acting as both a wave and a particle, and we kind of just take it as it is because we can't really, the model can't really reflect what is seen in the world, and we just kind of this kind of wave theory lets us better understand how light functions, but sort of the alternative model as photons allows us to better understand light in a different way.
Yeah, I think, for different scenarios, different models work best.
God, too much.
Physics.
I'm a biologist.
Yeah.
To end, do you want me to tell you why it's called Black Friday?
Go for it.
It's quite depressing. It's because there would be so many people that would go out to shop. There are a lot of car accidents and deaths, so it was called Black Friday, and like a police force in America started calling it that.
Oh,
No
And that's
way.
why.
it's darker than I thought.
There we
It's
go.
dark.
Let's. What's next? The quiz.
It is the quiz.
Cheer
Time
people
for-
up with
yeah,
the quiz.
Absolutely.
On that negative note.
Okay, so it's time for the quiz. I wrote this last night. And obviously it's going to be based on the colour. The first 10 questions are going to be multiple choice, and the last 5 are going to be short answer. But before we begin, I need to ask you both to select a buzzer noise.
It's difficult because I can't really have a light.
You should do the Doppler effect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did that earlier, so I'll demonstrate it again. I'll go meow.
Very
That's
nice.
my noise.
I can't really think of one.
I mean, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard with the colour. Go with whatever you want.
Boing.
Very nice. Okay. So before further ado, the first question. Humans are trichromat, meaning they have 3 different types of colour receptors and can see approximately 10 million different types of colour. Some animals, however, are pentachromats, which means they have 5 different types of colour receptors and can see approximately 10 billion types of colours. Which of these animals are not pentachromats? A. Butterflies. B.
Did you just say I?
Yeah, as in A. Butterflies. B. Spiders. Or C. Pigeons.
Meow.
Charlie?
Pigeons?
That's unfortunately wrong. I have to open up the question.
What was the first one again?
It's butterflies or spiders, which are not pentachromats.
I'm going to say spiders because I feel like butterfly wouldn't want to see colours.
Exactly. You're right.
Oh,
So
it's
this
'cause I was
surprisingly-
thinking birds have 4.
So pigeons are an
They
exception.
don't. Oh,
But yeah, pigeons are the
Typical.
only one of the only birds and one of the only animals that can see 5 different types. Well, have 5 different types of colour receptors.
another reason they're pests.
So
But they're such a boring colour.
I know.
You just think they'd be a bit more...
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they
I
don't
guess
need
it's
to
like
bother.
camouflaging, aren't they?
Anyway, moving on. Which was the Old English word for blue? Was it I, blå?
You did I again.
A, blå, B, boo, or C, blue?
Boing. Boo, because it just sounds quite funny.
It wasn't, unfortunately.
So what are my options?
A, blå, or C, blue?
How are they spelled? How is the third one spelled?
Blue is spelt B-R-E-W.
B-I.
Like brew.
Brew, like a beer, and then
The other one is blå, spelt
Blå.
B-L-A-W.
I'm gonna say blå because I like
correct.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. That's
one
it.
each.
Indeed. Anyway, question number 3.
Anyway,
Red sky at night, shepherd's delight. Red sky in the morning, shepherd's warning, is an old wives' tale. Talking about shepherds, what meat is typically associated with a shepherd's pie? Is it A, lamb, or B, beef?
boing. Oh, I did
That
like
was-
combine
That
our
wasn't your
noises.
buzzer. Yeah.
No.
But it kind of was.
Wow. There we go. I did it again. Lamb.
Yeah, correct.
That has so nothing to do with colour.
Well,
I like the rhyme though. I like the rhyme.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay.
So is it cottage pie that's
Cottage pie is beef.
beef?
Shepherd's pie is lamb. Fish pie is fish.
Yeah. Yeah. Roughly what percentage of the British population is red-blue colourblind? Is it A, 3.2%, B, 4.5%, or C, 5.4%?
Oh, tricky.
Boing. I think I'm going to go with the lower one, the A.
I'm afraid that's incorrect, which leaves us with B and C, 4.5% or 5.4%.
B.
Yeah, correct.
Excellent. 3 points to
Of
me.
course, as we may come on to, most of those are men. It's far more
Yes,
prevalent to be
much
red.
more common in men. But
My
I'll
brother's
discuss why
colourblind.
later. Oh, really?
Yeah.
But not you.
No.
Handy.
Anyway, question 5 on a similar theme. Mark Zuckerberg, the creator of Facebook, is red-blue colourblind. Is that true or false?
Because Facebook's blue.
Someone could have chosen that for him though.
No, but you would think, like, if he was designing a website, would he make the logo blue if you can't see it? Or did he do it by accident?
Who knows?
Oh,
Hard to give away, isn't it?
I have no idea.
I'm going to say that is true.
It is true. So yeah, he just chose blue because apparently it's the richest colour to his eyes.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
As in the colour that stands out the most.
Yeah. So red-blue colourblind doesn't mean that you can't see
No.
blue. It just means you can't tell it apart.
Differentiate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway.
Well, got that one right.
Over this weekend, sport has adopted the rainbow laces in support of the LGBT community. The rainbow flag was first flown in the year 1978, but in what city? Is it A, New York, B, San Francisco, or C, Santa Cruz? Charlie?
San Francisco?
It was.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I think-
Yeah,
As
I
a
think I
large
remember
part
you
of,
saying when you went that it's kind of like supposed to be one of the gay capitals,
It is. Yes, indeed.
much like Brighton.
Yeah. But it's interesting because also when I was in New York, I swear I went to a bar and they said that it was one of the first places in the world that flew the LGBT rainbow flag.
Well, I mean, it could have been the second, which
Yeah.
is one of the first few.
Exactly. Anyway, question number 7. This is a really interesting one. I love this one. Albinoism is a genetic disease resulting in the inability to produce pigment. Around the world, approximately 1 in 20,000 people are albino. However, the disease is much more prevalent in certain countries across Africa. But which country has the highest percentage of albino residents? Is it I, South Africa, B, Tanzania, or C, Nigeria?
That's going to have to be a complete guess. I've done a lot of permanent accounts, so I think Way should give it a go.
I can't even make an educated guess
It's
because
difficult.
I think I've seen some documentaries that I'm going to say Tanzania.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So like I said, the average in the world is 1 in 20,000, but incredibly, it's 1 in 1,400 in Tanzania.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so insane amount, and it's really difficult to know why. The current theory is there's a certain mutation called OCA2, which causes albinoism, and they think that this gene may protect you from leprosy, which was highly prevalent in Tanzania.
Okay, so it could have been adaptive.
Exactly. Yeah, but of course it's hard to prove that because we've wiped out that disease.
Have we? Mm-hmm. Oh,
Or the disease doesn't exist anymore in that
in that area.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I really like that one.
It's a good fact.
Anyway, Newton's prisms, with white light being split into the different colours, form the artwork of one of the best-selling albums of all time, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. But how many weeks did this album stay in the Billboard's album chart top 50?
God.
Was it A, 50 weeks, B, 208 weeks, or C, 741 weeks?
It's got to be B. 700 weeks is like...
See, I think it might be low. I feel like it was maybe not very popular to begin with, and then maybe got more popular. Or was it actually the bigger one?
So C was the right answer. Incredibly,
700 weeks?
The album stayed in the top 50 of the Billboard charts from 1973 through to 1988.
Wow.
I wasn't
dropped-
listening to you properly. I was thinking of number one.
Just in the top
Several
50.
years.
And actually, it dropped out for 1 year, but it's still pretty much in the top 50. It stayed in the top 50 pretty much since when it was released. It's now estimated that 1 in 4 people own a copy of The Dark Side of the Moon, and I own at least 3.
So maybe that is skewed slightly by
possibly.
people owning multiple copies.
Anyway, Marcus Pfister is a famous Swiss author whose most famous creation is probably the children's book The Rainbow Fish,
Oh, I love that book.
That is such a good book.
about a fish that possess scales of all different colour varieties. While scales are often associated with fish, what other group of animals are they also found in? A. Mammals, B. Reptiles, or C. Both mammals and reptiles?
I feel like you're trying to trick us here.
Yeah, I can't think of any mammals that have scales.
You're trying to say scales are like skin is kind of like
No. I
No,
really
you're not
mean-
getting into your dissertation here.
No, I really mean scales. In what you would assume is the
Reptiles.
scales.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go.
What's you incorrect? It's both mammals and reptiles. The one animal is the most trafficked animal in the world.
Pangolin.
Pangolin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's covered. It's the only mammal it's covered in a layer of.
I didn't know if
Scales.
there'd be real scales. Oh, pangolins are really cute.
Yeah, so they're also a mammal. So that means that scales occurs right from the sharks through the fishes, mammals, reptiles, and in birds because the feet
Scaly
of birds.
feet.
Exactly. So they're really, really prevalent. Anyway, one of my favourite artists is Halsey.
Is it?
Is that how it's pronounced?
Halsey? Well, clearly she's not one of your favourite
Anyway,
artists.
she has a song called Colours. Which of these is not a lyric from the song?
I do like the song, so...
A. You're floating like a feather in the breeze. B. You're dripping like a saturated sunrise. Or C. You're spilling like an overflowing sink.
What? I feel
last
like the
one's not
sunrise
very-
one is too weird to make up.
The last one's not very romantic, it seems.
What are we going for?
I'm going to say C.
Incorrect.
Ugh.
I'll say A.
Yeah, you're right. So I made that one up. You're floating like a feather in the breeze is the only sort
But also
lyric.
the only one that you would think would be a lyric.
Exactly. You're dripping like a saturated sunrise and you're spilling like an overflow sink are both lyrics from that excellent song by Halsey.
It is actually
Oh,
a
wait,
good, quite
I
good
thought
song.
we were trying to find the one that wasn't.
Oh, no. No.
No.
Yeah.
So maybe that it is.
No. You were trying to find the one that wasn't.
Yeah.
So the one that wasn't is the one you made up in the first one. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that concludes the first 10 questions, the multiple choice. And we're now on to the short answer ones.
Short answers, like an exam.
If he could, how would Donald Trump spell colour?
C-O-L-O-R.
Yes, correct. Of course,
No,
the
U.
American spelling, yeah.
yeah, without the U. Question 2. Taste the Rainbow is a catchphrase by what company?
Meow.
Yeah,
Skittles.
indeed.
I should have known that. I love Skittles.
Say.
you are addicted to Skittles.
The green colour which characterises most plants is produced by which pigment?
Meow.
God.
God, I'm on fire. Chlorophyll.
Yep.
Oh, I'm just getting outnumbered by biologists.
Well,
here.
you need to catch up.
Whilst green is widespread amongst plants, name the only mammal that possesses the colour green.
The only
As in they can see it or they are green.
They are
they
green.
are green.
Only mammal.
What? I can't think. A green mammal.
Not necessarily a green mammal, but can possess.
A sloth?
Yes.
Yes.
So they're not really green, but they're the only mammal that
They
doesn't
have
bother.
algae in their fur and
they
they
do-
look green.
Yeah, and they just can't.
They just
wash.
don't care.
Yeah.
Is it because they move so they kind of just
Yeah, it grows on them because
yeah.
they're so slow. Oh, I was trying to think of like a furry green thing.
Yeah.
The
The Grinch, yeah.
This is another cool question. Was the colour orange named after the fruit, or was the fruit named after the colour?
boing. I'm gonna say the fruit was named after the color.
Nope.
Oh.
So the colour orange is named after the fruit, and it derives from the Sanskrit word for fruit, which is naranga.
Which is similar. That's like similar to the Spanish. Oh, well, there you go. I don't think I get that one. No one gets that one.
No. Do you know what the final scores were?
I think I'm on 0.
I feel like maybe I won.
I think yeah. But we won't go into the
Madness.
details of the scores themselves.
Yeah, I'm happy not to.
And you enjoyed that quiz?
Yeah, it was a good
That was
quiz.
really good facts in there.
Thank you very much.
Well, next up, I will be talking about the biology of colour.
Lovely. Look forward to that.
Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about the biology of colour. So something that might surprise people about colour is that there's kind of two different types in biology. So there's structural colour, and then there's also pigmentation. So pigmentation is like dyes and things like that. So like if I'm wearing a pink jumper, it's from a dye rather than a structural aspect. And then structural colour is the physical interaction of light with biological nanostructures. So tiny little structures that reflect light in a certain way, and it makes it look a certain colour. So apparently these structures likely developed as an important phenotype, so an important appearance during the first Cambrian explosion, which was when kind of life really got really diverse 500 million years ago. So that's also when the eye kind of formed. So when animals could detect light, colour, shade and contrast and all things like that. So pigments and dyes are molecules that produce colours by selective absorption and reflection of specific wavelengths of light. So my pink jumper is absorbing all the other colours and reflecting back pink, and that's why it looks pink. But the structural colour only relies on the shape of its material and not the chemical properties of it. So I have a few examples for you of structural colour. So there is a berry of an African herb that is called Pollia condensata.
We'll run with it.
Yeah, we'll just say that's what it's called. It's blue, like an iridescent blue colour. And the berries were examined under microscopes, and researchers found that the fruit's blue iridescence was generated by the cell wall around the cells of this berry. So within the walls were this stuff called like cellulose fibrils, which they're stacked in a strange pattern, like a helix, like DNA, like wrapped around each other. But they're also rotated to each other and stacked on a weird way, basically. So slightly rotated with respect to the next helix. And then the distance between two similar points on any given spiral is known as a helical pitch. We're kind of getting into a bit more physics here. But so that helical pitch is about the same wavelength as blue light. That's why it looks blue. Because it gives off the same wavelength. And so as a result, blue light is selectively reflected while other colour wavelengths get passed through or are cancelled out. And that's why you have like this brilliant blue berry. But it also means that because each cell is slightly different and the spacing of these layers are slightly different in each cell, they all give off slightly different like red, blue, purple and green hues. So that's why it looks iridescent.
Yes. As in different shades of colour.
They all give off a slightly different blue. So that's why it looks different. But yeah, and they're also highly reflective, so they send back a lot of light, which is apparently 30% of incoming light is reflected back, which means that the berry is one of the brightest living objects on land. Which is pretty cool, isn't it?
Can we eat the berries?
I don't know.
Yeah, because if you cooked it down, would it lose all its blue?
I assume so, because it would lose its iridescence and stuff because it wouldn't have that reflective element.
I went butterfly hunting
Of course.
in Madagascar, so they have the most amazing butterflies.
Yeah.
In terms of like their iridescence, so different glows of colour. And we were looking at whether some of these individuals might have been new species.
Oh, so you weren't killing them?
So yeah, we had to kill them to send them back to a lab for DNA testing. And unfortunately, when you put them in ethanol, they just lose that iridescence completely. Which is quite sad because you would have these amazingly coloured animals, and then they'll be sent
and put them in.
And then when they're sent back to the lab, they're gonna receive
sad-looking butterflies.
well, and butterflies which don't accurately represent what they actually look like in the wild.
Yeah. So I assume if you cooked this berry, it wouldn't look the same. And then I also have an animal as well, which again is blue. So it's called the eastern bluebird, and its blue feathers are produced by a selective scattering of blue light from a little nanostructure of keratin. So that's the same stuff that our nails and hair is made out of. And little air pockets in these hair-like branches, which are called feather barbs, which is what the feathers, like the structure of the feathers. So the size of these air pockets determines the wavelengths that are selectively amplified and reflected back. So because the certain size, it just means that it favours blue, and that's why the feather looks blue. And then I have a little bit of how they make the feathers like this. So when the bird's feathers are developing, the feather barb cells expand to their final shape, and then they deposit solid keratin around the periphery of the cell, so like around the cell wall, but they don't have cell walls. And then the keratin filaments are like free around in the cell, so the cell's like middle is made up of a cytoplasm, which is almost like liquidy.
Yeah.
So it's just free and floating around in there. And then they start to bind to each other and form larger and larger like blobs and solid bars of keratin and become less water soluble. And then they like surround these twisted channels of the cytoplasm in the cell, which is like water. Well, it's not watery, but like gel-like substance.
Yep.
And then these channels of keratin remain in place after the cytoplasm dries out and the cell dies, which results in these tiny little structures observed in the feathers. And that's why it looks blue.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that's structural colour. And then, as we alluded to earlier, moving on to colour blindness. So colour blindness, as you said earlier, doesn't mean you don't see any colours. It just means that people who are colourblind, like your brother, see some colours less intensely than others, and in rare cases, not at all. So most forms of colour blindness are genetic. So the genes are recessive, which means you would need 2 copies for it to act. But the gene is carried on the X chromosome, which men only have 1 of. So if they inherit this bad copy of the gene, let's not say bad, the recessive property of the gene, they're guaranteed to be colourblind because they don't have a second copy that they can rely on. Whereas women have 2 X chromosomes. So even if they get a recessive gene, the other colourblind gene can override it, which means they have normal vision. So a woman would only be colourblind if she had 2 copies of a recessive gene.
Yeah, whereas a man only needs 1.
Only need 1. So that's why as many as 1 in 10 men can have some form of colourblindness, but very few women are. And then, I guess, to explain colourblindness, you kind of need to know how you see normally in like all of the colours. So colour recognition begins in the retina, which is a strange tissue behind the back of your eye. So if you've ever seen a diagram of the eye, it's the bit at the back. And in the retina, you have 2 different types of what are called photoreceptors. So they're special cells, which means they can absorb the light. And these 2 types are called rods and cones, which they're called because that's what their shape is. They look like a rod or a cone. So rods distinguish between black and white, which help you see in the dark, why cones only work in bright light. So as you were saying about like if you turn the light off, you can't see any colour. That's because the cones can't work.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't see any colour, or that it just didn't exist in the first place. So when light strikes your retina, your rods and cones work together to send signals down nerves to your brain, and then that creates the image based on the colours that you see.
Yep.
So with normal vision, you have 3 different types of cones. One that can absorb long light, one that can absorb medium light, and one that can absorb short light. Mm-hmm. So that, simplified, is blue, green, and red light. So working together, they cover the whole spectrum of light. But if you're colourblind, then one or more of the cone types, these cell types, are either completely absent or they don't work properly, depending on what type of colourblindness you have. Mm-hmm. So you can get anomalous trichromacy, which means people have all 3 types of cones, but one of them is defective. So the effects are kind of mild and they might not even realise they have it. Mm-hmm. So like we were saying, everybody sees colour differently. So until you say, that's red, and someone else could say, no, it's not, you wouldn't necessarily know.
Yeah.
Because it's not... it's not going to like seriously affect your life. Right. But if you are just completely missing a type of cone, then you have a more serious condition that is called dichromacy. So which is what other mammals and like, you know, people say that dogs see in black and white.
Yeah.
That's not true. They have dichromacy. So they miss out an entire spectrum, a kind of like area of the light spectrum, but they can see all the other colours.
Yeah.
So if you were missing the M cone, which detects green wavelengths, if you looked at a tree, the green leaves would look exactly the same as a brown trunk. Mm. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my brother sort of has that. Except I think he's missing the blue cone.
So if he was looking at like, I don't know, a boat on the sea, they would look the same colour? Yeah,
so I think so often things he confuses red and pink a lot. Red and black also gets confused a lot. Mm. I think blue and green, so he confuses green as well.
Okay.
But it seems to be like red, it gets confused with a lot.
Mm. That's very interesting. I'm not actually... Oh no, I think there was a guy on our degree course who was colourblind. So when, like in science, you have different graphs, he'd be like, I can't tell the difference between this graph, which I guess is really annoying. But yeah, there is one more type of colour blindness, which is extremely rare, and it means that you have 2 of the 3 types missing. So those people afflicted also have a deficiency in their rod cells as well, so the ones that help you see in black and white and like focus on things. So they would actually only see black, white, and grey, and it would also be blurry. Mm. So that's quite a severe vision problem. But yeah, so that's colour blindness. But maybe moving on to something a bit crazier, you can have like humans can potentially have 4 different types of cone cells instead of 3. Ooh. So it's like supervision, as people have called it. Mm-hmm. So it's called tetrachromacy, which is what I thought birds had.
Which most do.
Apart from pigeons.
Apart from the amazing vision of a pigeon.
So they would have 4 different types instead of the usual 3 in most people. So having 4 different cone cells means that you can see even more colours, as it, like in the same way that having 3 over 2 means that you can see more colours. Yes. And because you can differentiate between different wavelengths of light. So zebra finches and goldfish also have 4 cone cells, but humans can too. So the condition of tetrachromacy, in the opposite to colour blindness, is thought to be almost exclusive to women. Oh, because it's
all the good things.
I knew there was
it's such an easy life. So because women have these 2 X chromosomes, they can potentially carry 2 different versions of the gene for colour vision, which means that they would have 2 different encoding types on each chromosome, so it would give them 4. So in addition to the normal 2 unaffected cones, they'd have 4 in total. So yeah, it's really interesting. Perhaps 12% of women might have 4.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess it's another thing which is really hard to know whether you have.
Yeah, so you wouldn't really know about it. So they said many of the people that researchers have tested didn't actually seem to show any differences in their colour perception.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they still have different types of it. Because I guess you only need a slight change in the gene for it to be different, technically. So they did this little test where they showed people different coloured discs showing a mixture of pigments, such as like a green made out of yellow and blue. And the mixtures are too subtle for most people to notice. So most people would say that's the same colour. That's the exact same shade of colour. But if you had this tetrachromacy and you could get a difference, you would say they're completely different colours, or it's different shades of green, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was this lady that she was an artist, and she always used to say like, "Oh, can you see?" When she was teaching students, she would say, "Can you see this like beautiful pink colour on this leaf and this other colour coming down here?" And people, she didn't realise that she had this ability because people would be too polite to say that they couldn't see it. So they would just kind of nod along, and then she realised that someone was kind of broke it to her, and they were like, people can't see this, like you can only see this. And she did this test and she found out that she had tetrachromacy, and to a really high extent.
Her art must be amazing then.
Yeah, they said that perhaps this difference in perception is because she's trained as an artist, that she can kind of use that ability.
Oh, I see. Yes, because
whereas people that don't really have that kind of artistic background wouldn't necessarily know.
Yes.
But yeah, that's tetrachromacy, and all I've got on the biology of colour for you. Kind of reeled off a load of information there. But yeah, it's quite cool, isn't it? So you can be colourblind, but you can also be like extra colour.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it'd be cool to be extra colour. You'd be.
Yeah, but you've got 2
again,
extra chromosomes.
I think it would only be cool if you've gone from seeing
Nothing. Well, not nothing.
Yeah.
but like the shift in from having only 3 cone types to 4 would be cool. But I think
Yeah,
if you'd
no, I
be
see
born
what
with
you
4,
mean, yeah.
I'm not sure how much cooler that would be.
In the same way that I guess if you're colourblind, you're not necessarily aware that you're missing something.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless you have like
It's
this
a bit
really
like
poor
how
vision,
like
but-
humans can't see UV. We don't really think that we're missing out.
No, but
But birds, for example, can see in
Sleepless
UV.
nights.
Yeah, and you know, but if suddenly we were able to see in UV, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
or
So
maybe it
actually,
would just be too much.
apparently, so people nowadays are dreaming more in colour, whereas people, when there was no colour TV, people were.
I've
Yeah, I've heard that.
So whether that's a
I
myth,
find it
but-
so hard to believe because you see everyday life in colour.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
so the theory was just like the people that didn't have colour TV, like black and white TV, would dream more
But
monochrome.
I
Because of
used
the
to
media.
dream about like PlayStation games, like things that I had like. I feel like even though life is obviously in colour, there's something about like the TV which maybe captures people's imaginations and dreams more.
Yeah, perhaps, but when television was in black and white, I swear it wasn't as big a deal. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now people watch TV for endless hours every
yes,
day.
yeah.
Whereas you wouldn't necessarily have done that
Yeah, you're right.
when they first came out.
But things
yeah, it's
probably
very
seem more
interesting.
colourful now. Like if you look back at the day, like packaging and
Yeah,
I think there's a lot more
are
dyes
faded
and
because people didn't. I guess because maybe the dyes weren't as strong. Food is dyed nowadays, where I guess
Yeah,
it wasn't
yes.
necessarily then.
Yeah.
clothes were probably less exciting.
Yeah.
It was just rubbish back in the old days. But yeah, what's our next discussion?
So the final discussion will be on the adaptation of colour. So, as mentioned, this last and final section will be on the colour in adaptation, its role in evolution across the animal kingdom. So I guess one of the things that is so striking when we look into the diversity of animals is how also the diversity in colour.
Yeah, like fish, hummingbirds. Is that
Exactly.
hummingbirds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Birds, really.
Birds,
Yeah,
really.
birds in general.
I mean, not only is there such a diversity in life on Earth, but there's such a diversity in colour on Earth. So what are some of the factors that you think colour might play a role in?
A little test. Camouflage?
Yeah.
Camouflage, yes. Camouflage is the obvious one. So I'm sure all you at home know what camouflage is, but just in case, it's when the colours of the animal have been adapted to allow them to blend into their background. And this allows them to remain undetected by potential predators.
Like camouflage outfits.
Exactly. I think there's lots of examples of camouflage, obviously. There's examples where things just blend into their background really well. So moths are really good at this.
Ugh, I hate moths.
But there's also different types of camouflage. There's sort of structural camouflage. So this is things like zebras or tigers, which the structures on them, the stripes, break the image up in sort of long grasses, so that when an animal looks at a tiger, for example, in long savanna grass, it can't see the whole image because it's been broken up by the black stripes.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I thought the stripes just looked like the grass.
No, I don't think it is. I'm certain it's the fact that just the way the brain works, it can't form a whole image.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, when we see a tiger in a zoo, for example,
you don't get that effect.
No, which is why it kind of like it's hard to, or a zebra, for example, it's really hard to think that this would be camouflage, but it is.
So they can't. So the animal would know that the zebra is there, but it doesn't kind of know what bits are where. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's just the inability to form a whole picture. It breaks the image up.
Oh, okay. So it's like an optical illusion.
Yeah. But there are other cooler examples of camouflage. So one example is things like the chameleon. So they can, not only are they camouflaging, but they have the ability to camouflage into different backgrounds as they move about. There are examples of much slower transitions of this. So, for example, the Arctic wolf changes its winter coat.
Oh, yeah, they look so funny when they're like in the middle of it.
Yeah, so in the middle of winter when it's really snowy, they have a white coat to blend into their background, and then as the snow melts during the summer, they have a darker coat.
Oh, right.
So it's kind of an example like a chameleon, but it's just far slower.
And not as cool.
I've never understood how chameleons change their colour, as in...
So there's structures in their skin called chromatophores, and essentially the chameleon will have several different pigments, and the chromatophore will basically, I mean, if we like use an analogy of like the different pigments being stacked behind each other, the chromatophores will put the colour at the front.
Right.
And it will change. So let's say
They shift them around.
Yeah, so let's say the chameleon is in a green environment. It wants to look green. The chromatophores will place the green pigments at the front of the cell. And then if it's in a darker background, it would put the darker colours at the front. And of course, this is a process which so many people think maybe the chameleon is in charge of this.
Yeah, so how does it control it?
It's passive. How it happens is it's so crazy how this would ever happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how can it be passive? But there's some wonderful examples of this in nature. So another example is like eggs of a chicken. In theory, chickens laying at higher altitudes will need a thicker shell because just to withstand or a thinner shell. I can't quite remember which. I think it would be a thicker shell to withstand the difference in atmosphere and things. And this happens. So chickens laying higher altitudes will lay a thicker shell.
Right.
Again, this is an example of something that's passive. And again, even if you move a chicken up a hill, it will lay passively thicker shelled eggs. It's all done passively. Nowhere is the chicken going, right, I'm much higher up in the air and I'm going to have to lay a...
Yeah.
And it's the same with the chameleon.
And the chameleon does that too.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Must be a great experiment with the chicken going up the hill.
What are you doing today? Just moving chickens up hills.
Yeah.
And putting chameleons on different backgrounds.
So fish are probably the best example of animals which can rapidly change colour. But there is some suggestion that the colour changes isn't actually caused by camouflage, but instead by stress. So stress can induce different colours.
If anybody saw Blue Planet, cuttlefish.
Yeah. Well, actually, talking about cuttlefish, probably the coolest example of James. Why did I
You
say
clearly
James?
have someone called James on the brain.
The coolest example, I'm sure it's James just messaged me on Facebook. Anyway, so cuttlefish can use chromatophores to put on a dazzling display of hypnotism.
Oh yeah.
To sort of incite their prey out to look at this wonderful display and then eat them. So yeah.
Trick them.
Some other examples of colour in adaptation?
I feel like I'm cheating.
Do you have the script in front
Yes.
of you? Oh, well.
Well, not that we follow us. A
no.
script per se.
No.
We know all of this in our brains.
Yes.
Mimicry?
Yeah, so there's two types of mimicry. The most common is Batesian mimicry. So this is essentially a type of cheating. It benefits one species at the expense or of no benefit to the other.
So they deliberately, well, they not passively, but they have evolved to look like each other.
Yeah.
But only one of them benefits.
Yeah, so a good example of this is found in spiders. So spiders mimic poisonous ants. So perfectly harmless spiders will mimic ants. They'll squeeze their tummy in to make it look like an ant. They'll put their front pair of legs up to make it look like an antennae. And essentially this is beneficial because predators mistake the harmless spider for a poisonous ant.
So they won't eat it.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, some really cool research has been done on this. Found that despite the fact that to our eyes, these are amazing mimics, the spiders are yet to mimic the UV pattern found in ants.
Right.
Which, if you're a bird,
Yeah.
you can see.
Yeah. So
they're actually not actually
great.
they're on their way to being great mimics, but they're not quite.
Must try harder.
They're not quite there.
Imagine some of the other spiders looking at each other like,
What are you doing?
John, what are you doing?
Back at it again, pretending to be an ant.
Another type of mimicry which occurs less frequently is Mullerian mimicry. And this occurs when mimicry, so same idea, two species matching each other, but this time it benefits both the mimic and the species that it's mimicking. And this might be if both species were poisonous, it would make sense to share maybe a warning signal so that predators are more exposed to that warning signal and are more likely to be deterred. So a really good example of this has recently been discovered in the Amazon. So it's the case of the Corydoras catfish. This is a group of fish, about 173 species wide, and essentially species which are completely unrelated to each other have evolved to look like each other because they're both poisonous and they want to share the same warning signals so that their predators, which are typically things like birds, avoid them.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the
Catfish get eaten by birds.
Yeah.
One of
big
the-
birds, by things
Big
like
birds.
herons and egrets. And
One of them choose like a new colour. This is a new fashion trend. And then go
That
leopard
is
print or
so
something.
last year. Although it wouldn't be as strong a signal and more likely to get eaten. So maybe not.
maybe we'll just have time just quickly to run through perhaps the best mimic which has been found in nature. It's a species of octopus which has been known to mimic perhaps 4 or 5 different species depending on its
I've heard of this.
environment. So, I mean, it's hard to do this justice on a radio show. If anyone's listening, just look up on YouTube. There's tons of videos. Mimicry octopus. It's incredible. So the octopus can mimic a lionfish, which it does when it changes its colour and it shapes its 8 tentacles to look like spines. It can look like a sea snake by putting all its arms in one direction and also change to yellow and black stripes. It can turn into a flatfish by pulling all its arms together on one side and flattening out its body. There's some suggestions that it can look like a jellyfish by puffing up its head a lot and letting its arms trail behind it. It's amazing. It's really,
so cool.
really
It's
cool.
like almost like 7 things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. My favourite is the snake, I think. Because I think, so obviously it has 8 tentacles. It puts 6 of them in the sand and then pokes the 2
Yes.
out. So, like, either side of its head, so it
Yeah.
looks like a
I
snake.
need to see this video.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I think that's all I have to say on colour and adaptation.
That's all there is.
It is. Just octopus is incredible.
It's a good note to end on. They are really cool. Maybe we'll tweet a picture
Yes,
one.
maybe we shall.
on Eureka at Forge.
Anything else to add by either of you two?
I don't think so.
No, I think
That was a solid review of colour, I think.
Yeah, we
Good
did it.
mixture.
We did it well. All right. Well, thank you very much, you at home, for listening in. This has been me, Chris.
Me, Charlie.
me, Weilin.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.